Hi, Joe. It is so wonderful to have you here today. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. This gonna be fun. I'm gonna enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. So I will just introduce you first and then we'll get started. Joe Bernstein is located in Washington, D.C., and he is a personal and professional growth coach, and he works with individuals and teams to create better relationships and healthier lifestyles. He has 15 years of coaching and training, and he has empowered thousands of people through his work. He has a fascinating story of how he lost 150 pounds and thrived after an earlier divorce and ended a successful career and then built his own practice. And through this, Joe has learned truly what it takes to create change in health, careers, and relationships. And I am so happy to have you here today with us, Joe. And let's get started. I wanted to, if you could share your story of how you lost 150 pounds, that would be wonderful to hear that.
Sure, I'll share the Cliffs notes if I can.
Yeah.
So one thing I'll just state is that I started my life overweight. I was 2 and 3 years old. I was already the chubby kid, and I just lived that life to the point where when I was 25, I was about 340 pounds. I'd gotten myself into a position where, I had a good job, but it wasn't a great career. And I got myself into a relationship that was a bit challenged. Um, the real short version of it is essentially I dieted, I yo-yo dieted till about the age of 13 or 14. So I
Okay.
started when I was 8 or 9.
Right.
My family, we had all of the, Richard Simmons sweating to the oldies, and we had Weight Watchers, and we did this and that, and Jenny Craig, and like my whole family had some excess weight at, varying levels and at different times. So we were always kind of experimenting with diets and exercise programs growing up.
Hmm.
But in my teenage years, I just kind of gave up. I think I remember a time when I was 14, I did the Atkins diet and lost like 20 pounds in a week and then gained it right back. So
Right.
I was resigned. I was like, oh, this is the life I'm going to live. I'm going to be an obese guy. Um, but what really turned it around was not deciding that I was going to go on some crazy diet. I really had a wake up call where I went to a doctor and I was a lot heavier than I thought I was. But even then, it was just a matter of making some small changes in the way I ate. And
Hmm.
over time, because of that different mindset, the mindset of, I'm just going to continue to make small, healthy choices, and I'm going to continue to grow and understand what I really value in this world. Um, that's what helped me lose weight. I mean, at the end of the day,
Right.
yes, I got rid of standard American diet.
Yeah.
I moved and switched to mostly plant-based. I moved and switched to mostly all food that I cook and as much local food as possible. That was all in there. But what really informed the way I help people and most of my life was so much of the change I made was when I stopped trying to diet, when I gave up on the desire that losing weight was the objective, and the objective became, how do I live a great life? So I lost
Hmm.
about 100 pounds even before I made some huge transformations to my life simply by walking more and eating natural foods and doing little things like being more mindful of the food I ate and getting out
Hmm.
in nature more. My lifestyle changed, and then the food kind of came with it.
I
The
see.
big changes definitely happened after my divorce. When I got separated, at about 30 years old, I got
Oh,
separated and
yeah.
we lost about 100 pounds. But at that point, instead of collapsing, because it's a pretty scary moment when like the life you built that you thought you wanted moves away from you, kind of like the rug gets pulled out from under you. I just really decided it was a time that I could rebuild a life and build it for the first time from a conscious place as an adult who
Mhm.
knew more of what he wanted. And that was the mindset shift that really got me into fitness and got me to learn a lot more even about the body and started me down the path of learning more about mindful eating and eating, like the psychology behind how we eat. That really shifted when I decided, okay, I have great gifts to give the world. I can build a great life. That made a big difference in really taking the rest of the weight off. And that's what helped me maintain the weight loss for 5 years.
Right. Well, how powerful. And the changes that you made, it was a number of different things, and to collectively when you put them all together, that's what really made the big difference. So
Yes.
how fascinating. Well, can you describe to us, so what is mindful eating? How would you describe that?
Right. So when I'm helping people around health and food, it's what I would consider a mind-body approach. It's not all hippie out and woo-woo and such, but what's really happening is we're looking at getting rid of the old style, the old conventional way we've been taught to focus on health and weight, which is, just exercise more and just eat right. It's all about willpower. It's going to what I consider a more evolved place, which is we're going to be really thoughtful about what we eat. We're going to experience all the sensory experiences that come with food and eating, and even movement too. We can apply the same stuff to our movement and our exercise routines. It's essentially slowing things down, feeling the experience, being truly present to it. So we actually get more out of the experience, both physiologically and intellectually, emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
At the end, we can make more changes and to habits happen when we're slow and mindful and thoughtful about it, rather than just trying to muscle them in.
Right.
So that's the best quick example or quick explanation I can give.
And I think that's so important because there are so many people that when they are eating, they're looking at their phone or they're watching TV or they're,
Right.
watching their kids eat. And to make that change, to be mindful, okay, what am I putting in my mouth? And instead of having something else going on at the same time. And oftentimes we can't help that, but to bring that extra awareness to what we're eating, I think can be very, very powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So let's tie that to weight loss. So the mindful eating, how can that help with weight loss?
Great question. We could do 4 hours on that question.
Yeah, I bet.
So there's several components of it. It's the physiological component is when you're mindfully eating, you're slowing yourself down. You're actually in the process, which we'll talk about shortly, you're doing a little bit of a breathing exercise before and maybe sometimes even during eating. So you're dropping your nervous system into a relaxed state. You know a lot more about this than I do probably, but essentially that state allows for proper metabolization of food. It allows for calorie burn to be more efficient. It allows for muscles to be built as well, because almost all healing and repair of the body comes in a state of relaxation.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the parasympathetic state.
Exactly. So the reality is when we're stressed and we're eating fast, we have a tendency to eat more. Our body is in a state of that sympathetic nervous system dominance, right? Where it's saying you don't need resources to digest and assimilate the nutrition from this food. You need resources to survive the next few minutes. So it's literally telling, when we're eating fast, we're eating distracted, it's telling our body that we don't really need its support in losing weight because that's not important right now. So that's just from the physiological perspective. When we have better nutrient assimilation, there's this crazy study where they took women from, I think it was some Scandinavian country and from Thailand, and they gave the women, they had very similar demographics in the study, food that's traditionally from Thailand with a certain type of macronutrient balance and nutrition in it, right? And the women that ate the Thai food that were Thai, they absorbed the majority of the nutrients. And the Swedish women or the Scandinavian women absorbed only about 7 to 8%. And then when they switched it, it was the exact same, but in reverse. So it's showing that when we're relaxed and we're used to the food and we're taking more pleasure in it, we actually absorb more nutrition. If you absorb more nutrition, then you're going to need less food to feel full and satisfied. You're less likely to have that craving an hour after you eat. It might be that you're full all day because you absorbed the nutrition. So that's just from the biological perspective. From the psychological perspective, when we're slow and we're experiencing the food and we're taking pleasure in it, we get all of these signals and cues to our mind that we've received the pleasure. Food is tasty for a reason. It's because we're being rewarded by nature. It's saying, okay, eat this. It's good for you. And so when we rush through it, we don't experience that. Again, signals from the brain to the body then say, hey, go get more food because we didn't experience this part of it. It's a big two-way street. It's a highway between the gut and the brain. They're talking to each other all the time. And so we lose weight when we're actually able to eat less and get more nutrition out of the food that we're eating. Right. And there's a whole, like I said, we can do a couple hours on all the domino effects that this then has too.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I sometimes say you aren't what you eat, you are what you absorb. out of your food. So it's the nutrients that you're actually absorbing through your food. Yeah.
Right.
So can you tell us who can benefit the most from mindful eating?
Yeah. So I think people that have tried to get healthy in various ways. They've tried to lose weight. They've tried to correct some challenges, especially with digestive disorder. And they haven't been having success from the traditional approach. That they're definitely going to have some benefit from mindful eating. People who are trying to lose weight, even if you're choosing a traditional diet, you're going to have huge benefits from mindful eating, because traditionally you kind of want to eat less and be more conscious of what you're eating.
Yeah.
Any human being who lives in our fast-paced society today, they could use mindful eating, because you have to eat 3 times a day, as a way to start mindfulness or meditation practices. You know, if you've wanted to do it and you say, yeah, but I never have the time. Well, every meal you have the time to do some sort of little breath work before. You have the time to kind of like focus in on your food. Even if you only have 5 minutes to eat, that can be your intro to like a mindfulness practice. So I want to say everyone, but those kind of few people, or if you're trying to figure out how to slow down a little in life, A, if you want to lose weight, B, if you've had digestive disorder, because I very often hear that, hey, I encourage someone to start slowing down the way they eat and be mindful. And they had huge change in their digestion before I've even asked about it, talked about it, we've tried to even look at that, and before we've changed what they've eaten. So that alone is huge.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I see this too. There's a big difference in the digestion that takes place when you're actually chewing your food. And there's a lot of, so digestion actually starts in the mouth. So with the saliva that you create, there are digestive enzymes in that. And so that's very important to get that process started in the mouth by slowing down, taking your time, taking bites, relaxing. Yeah. Well, let's talk about, we're going to go over 5 tips for mindful eating and how we can implement these in our life. So these are 5 tips that anybody can use.
Yeah.
And let's go into the first one. So the first is breathing and relaxing and slowing down. So can you tell us about this?
Sure. At the end of the day, we have to practice this. It's actually a really challenging thing to do. We're used to eating quickly. We're used to eating distracted. So the first thing is, if you actually want to try mindful eating, do your best to pick a few meals. I like to tell people to schedule them. Schedule like 3 meals this week where you're going to eat without a screen. And you might want to do it alone for the first few meals. So no matter what, I tell people the first thing is simply just decide that you're going to put 5 long, slow, deep breaths before your meal.
Okay.
And that's the first tip. That's the first thing I tell people to do in like week 1 is just do that. Just do that. Don't expect that your entire meal is going to be this slow, mindful, meditative meal. 5 slow, deep breaths. And what that's doing is triggering the nervous system back into that relaxation response, but also giving you a moment to separate from the rest of the fast-paced day and slow down. And actually in that moment, you can appreciate the food. You can look at the food. Maybe you can state some gratitude for the food and your choices. The whole concept is slowing you down to be more conscious of your choices, not just the physiological aspect. So just simply 5 slow, deep breaths before a meal.
Right. And in our fast-paced lives, it's actually rare that we take the opportunity to be able to do that. So it's a good reminder.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go into the second one. So it's taking pictures of your food instead of journaling. And can you explain this?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Yeah. So I wanted to give very practical tips here. And what I find is a lot of people are familiar with the idea of food journaling. Now, food journaling works for you. Like, I can give you an example. My whole family has always been challenged a little bit with food and weight. My older sister does really well when she food journals. And she's just a very relaxed person already. She doesn't let a lot of things overwhelm her or stress her out. And she loves tracking things and she loves numbers. She's leaning into her strengths when she does that.
Right.
But a lot of my clients, food journaling is really a challenge for them. And either they don't do it, or it creates anxiety, or they feel too like policed when they're doing it. So I recommend that people instead take a photo on your phone of food. This is becoming really popular with like our Instagram culture and like the
Oh,
foodie
yeah.
culture.
Uh-huh.
But this is not like that. You're not doing it to get validation from friends and family and everyone around you. It's simply to take another moment to pause.
Okay.
When you're taking a picture of your food, you're going to be more thoughtful about what you choose. I recommend people choose food that looks really good in pictures, has natural colors, lots of colors from nature, because you're going to then get lots of plant-based foods.
Mm-hmm.
And if it looks pretty and it's pretty enough for a picture, you're going to take more time and be thoughtful in eating it. So it's simply something to do instead of journaling. And it really is something that I've found is really neat for people, especially if you're visual or more artistic or creative.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen people just take off from this idea of taking pictures of their food as an early step.
Okay, so the third tip is
Yeah.
leveraging competitive nature. And can you explain that?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're good at being competitive in our world. And when I work with people, I help them take a look at that, right? And maybe slow down and be more deciding what their values are based on who they are, right? Not on others.
Mm-hmm.
But we're competitive by nature. So if you are competitive, then I want you to leverage it. Make it a game when you're eating with people that you don't tell them what's going on, but you're trying to be the one that finishes last. And if you
Oh,
make
I
it a
see.
game and you try and win, you're using that kind of that energy that might help you succeed in many other parts of your life to actually slow you down and win the meal. So if you're really having a hard time and you want to be slower in your eating and you're bought into the value of it, but you have a lot of meals with other people, then make it a game where you're like competing to see who can go slowest. Very tangible tip, and there's a lot of other little psychological aspects of that, but just there, I can leave it there, and I think it has a lot of value.
I think that's a great tip, and only you know that you're playing that game.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so tip number 4,
Yep.
paying attention.
Yeah.
Okay.
Paying attention, it's called paying attention for a reason. We have a limited amount of it. And if we're paying attention to everything else in our life and you really want to lose weight, you want to get healthy, then there's not going to be a whole ton left here. You have to allocate some resources. So what that means to me is it's not just about focusing on if you lost weight. It's not just about focusing on, do I look a little better? It's not just about focusing on, did I get rid of this allergy, which is really important. Like, I know you work with people on that, and it's super important. Food allergies can completely change someone's life in a negative way they don't know about for years. But it could also be about just focusing in on what feels good and what helps your body do well, right? So maybe an hour after you eat a meal, paying attention. How does my body feel? Where's my energy? Where's my mood? 2 hours later, how does my body feel? Where's my energy? Where's my mood? If you can zoom out and you can focus on, okay, what did I eat yesterday? How well did I sleep? And the next day, how did it impact me? To me, that's going to teach us so much more than results that are related to numbers, especially when it comes to weight, because weight loss can be tricky. The body can hold on to weight. The body can recomposition itself very quickly and efficiently, where you're losing a ton of fat, but you're gaining a little bit of muscle, and the muscle's heavier, so it doesn't, you can't tell. You think you're getting skinnier, but the number is even more maybe sometimes. But it's just a much better measurement of if what you're eating is good for you and helping you out, if you're more focused on how does it impact you, how does it make you feel afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. It's how you feel is so much more important than trying to get to a certain number on the scale, because really at the end of the day, we're living our lives and we want to be able to enjoy ourselves, and we have to be able to feel well to be able to do that. Yeah.
Right.
Well, let's go into the 5th tip, and that is let go and be grateful. And I love this one.
Thanks. So what we've really been taught a lot is that, especially in dieting culture, and even a lot by a medical industry, if you really want to look at it, is to try and be perfect. And that doesn't exist. There are no human beings that are perfect. So the point of let go and be grateful is let go of trying to be perfect. I see so many people really where they get off course is because they tried to do it exactly right, and they were holding the reins really tightly, and they did it great for a week, and they used willpower, and then the first time they make the mistake, they go, oh, well, all right, the weekend's ruined. I'll start again Monday. And then they don't start first thing Mondays. Go, well, not today. I'll start next Monday, right? So the letting go of perfection, knowing that if I mess up in this moment, I can start again the next second. I think that's really important when we're talking about anything related to food behaviors or health behaviors at all. So let go of perfection and then being grateful. I think a lot of the time we lose sight of how good we often have it. If you're watching this, if you're in this conversation, if you or I, or if you're listening to this, chances are you have a great life. And I think that when we focus too much on what's wrong with us or what doesn't feel right or what's our weight is, if we don't like it, we really lose sight. And that energy of stress, again, it's a cycle that feeds back into it. If you're in that stressful energy and you're not grateful for the life that you have, you're not grateful for the food that's in front of you, you're not grateful for the body that you have, then you're stressed out. You're making it harder for your body to actually heal or lose weight. And you're also just in this place where you're not making the best choices because you're in that fight or flight mode. So when it's time to kind of de-stress and look at how you're going to make change for the long run, having gratitude for what you already have, where you're at, the efforts you make, they are a game changer, because we're very often taught like until we reach the finish line, it's not good enough. It's not okay. But nothing keeps us on course more than letting go of perfection and being grateful. And I even recommend this too for just, you're sitting down, you're looking at your food. If you can be grateful that you have it, if you can think about, oh my gosh, how many people's hands needed to go into the production of this before it can get to my plate? And you think about those other people in that moment, I think it's harder to abuse food, and it's harder to, eat in a way that's not going to serve your health needs. Because then it's like, wow, you gain perspective and you have a whole different way of looking at the food on your plate.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful. And it's, it makes you think about food differently when you do think about all the hands, all the different preparations that the food went through to be able to get to the final destination on your plate. And even being grateful for all of those hands that have touched your food. And I sometimes, when I talk to people, it can be hard to have the practice of gratitude. Keeping a gratitude journal is something that I talk about a lot, but it can be the little things. So a roof over your head, the food on your plate, a warm bed to sleep in at night. Reminding yourself of that I think is really important.
Yeah, I love that. I'm so glad we're on the same page, and you're also out there prescribing the gratitude journal. I think when people are like, hey, Joe, I have this challenge, what can you recommend? It doesn't matter if they're going through divorce, they want to lose 200 pounds. I'm typically going to say, start with the gratitude practice. It's right. Have to condition yourself to start thinking differently.
Yeah, I think that's great. Well, that is wonderful. I think that those tips for mindful eating are so powerful, and they're tips that anybody can take today and start implementing in their life. And it's the simple things put together that can make a big difference. And I love that lesson that you shared with us today. So thank you so much for being with us, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad I had the chance.
Thank you.